Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ah. Okay, people, before the video gets started, I did just want to put up this little bit of information and let you know that both the electric and the gas come with standing charges that are daily. I think most people know that, but some people may not know that. I always knew it for the gas, but I didn't actually know it was the case for the electric. So I've just put some little screenshots up here so you can see. I have already spoken to the energy company about getting the gas capped, and they are happy for me to get it capped by a gas safe guy that, as long as I send them a certificate via email, they're happy to stop the standing charges that way. Read what it says about the electric. It's a little bit more complex. If you have a prepayment meter and you don't use that prepayment meter, then they will just keep on adding the standing charge on every day, which is something that I have noticed that has happened. So then that'll be up to you either to get them to fuse that, or it's up to you. If you're never going to use it, then that's your choice. But this is a little insert that I wanted to let you know before the video gets started. My content is produced for positive, adult, critical thinkers only. I am not at any point suggesting that you need to live your life the way that I do. My videos are for educational purposes. I really do hope that you find elements of my content useful. Please take with you only the teachings that resonate. Hi people, my name is Eva. Welcome to the Energy Exchange. I obviously, my channel is about living without mains, gas and electric. And I just wanted to do like a quick intro to explain what led up to this. Like, why did I decide to do this? My brain is heavily trained in looking at patterns. Okay. It's not something that I'm consciously aware of, but as I've got older, I've discovered that I have that gift for a reason and that I'm not supposed to ignore it. And the things that I've seen over the past few years in relation to how electricity is kind of being gatekept and used as a weapon, it's been weaponized really, instead of just something that we pay for every month and it doesn't really make that much of an impact on our life in terms of financially. It's just something that we do and we just move on. I definitely feel like in the last 10 years that has changed drastically. Everything is a lot more expensive now, but specifically, like, why is everything that people are addicted to, 90% of it requires electric? And that is not a mistake, it's to make sure that you're always tethered to this system. And I have also noticed that there's this big move towards subscription services. You want everything to be, again, on this kind of endless tether where you haven't just paid for something. You're not allowed to just forget about it. It's over now. There's just this constant cycle of, hey, we need you to pay for this again. Remember us? We need more money from you now. And, when people say money is energy, that they're not joking. That's the form of control that is used to take your energy. So going back 10 years ago, I was having a meter moved in my house and the guy came from the electric company. I won't say which one. And, me and my naivety 10 years ago, I was a lot more asleep than I am now. And he said to me, he was in the kitchen just talking to me and I was in the living room. And I said, I'm thinking about getting one of those smart meters. And this man came out of my kitchen and he came into my living room and he looked me in my eye and he said, don't you ever get one of those. And I was like, why? And he said, because whenever they're ready to do what they're going to do, they don't need a warrant. They're just going to turn it up. And there's nothing that you will be able to do about it. And sometimes when Mother Earth throws you an angel, pick up that free game. Okay. There's been several of them in my life that have just come out of nowhere to save me from certain things. And he was one of them. And I always listened to him, and I always decided, yeah, I'm not going to get one of those. So over the years, I have seen bailiffs come to people's houses with electricians and force them to have these meters put in because, due to how much the bill is and things like that, they're now inevitably tethered to this system. And I know that's not a new thing. And I know that they did that before, with the prepayment meters, that's always been sort of the way that they get their money. But again, it just stuck in my mind as like very sort of Gestapo level. You can't do this to people. Like, it's just crazy. Over electric seems wild. And then so at the time of recording this video, I just want to let you know it's the 14th of July. Okay. And I have already been living without MAINS electric and gas for the last 2 months. And I have no intention of going back. Right? Has it always been easy? Of course not. Have I been vexed some days? You bet you're behind. I have, right? I definitely have. But the benefits for me individually well weigh out the cons. And I sit here and I know that there's people in certain positions. You've got too many children. You're not in the house enough to be able to make this work. You have a disability that requires you to need mains electric, right? I empathize with you completely, and I understand that you're not in a position to do this. But maybe there are still some takeaways that you could take from it. This constant threat of the grid going down, which is very boring at this point. I find it difficult to believe that that would ever happen, because not for an extended period of time anyway, not more than like a few days, because how are they going to propagandize you if there's no electric, if there's no digital supply? How is that going to happen? What I've come to realize over these past 2 months is that our power is way more significant than the power supply that they're offering. Okay. But I'll get into more of that as the channel goes on. But yeah, I understand that not everyone could do this and they're not in a position to, and I completely understand that. But if there are things that I'm doing throughout these videos that you think, maybe I could just buy some camping stoves and get a couple of gas canisters, and maybe I could get some rechargeable light bulbs just in case. Then if they ever do carry out their threats of doing that, then you don't have to be one of those people that's thrown into panic mode. And I need to make this, I should have said this at the beginning of the video, this is not a prepper channel where there's no survival undertones going on here. We are living in peace and harmony and getting back to nature and human beings over machines, right? That is what I'm about. That is what this channel is about. And there's no doomsday vibes here. That I'm not doing anything like that. So, and there never will be, because there's no need to panic. Fear mode, panic mode, that's how they harvest the most energy out of you. Believe it or don't, but it's a fact. So not being in that energy is how you win. Advise that, yeah, I know this content is not going to be for everyone. It's just not. There's some people that could never survive without all the things that, require mains electric. Although I have discovered that's not half as many as things as you think it is. Is there things that I've had to go without that have my main thing that I've had to go without, which has deeply upset me, is my air purifier. And I know hardly anyone even owns those, but that has been a real source of comfort. However, I don't really have to go without it because I do have a little baby generator. Okay. Do I have to be structured with how long I use it for and not just leave it on all day like I used to? Of course, but it has a timer setting. And this is the thing about what I'm doing. It does cause for you to be way more accountable in the things that you're using. You can't just walk off and leave your laptop on for an hour and a half and then come back to it because you got distracted. You can't do that. Otherwise, you're going to use all your energy supply. So you have to be much more intentional with what you're doing. But the payoff for me has been sort of out of this world, into spiritually out of this world. I can't even tell you the difference that has made to me not being tethered to the grid. Down the line, I'll obviously get into sort of financial things, and does it weigh up in terms of what I'm using to replace having mains, gas and electric. But so far it does. It really does. And it's actually much bigger than that. Introduction. I'm just very tired of seeing the wrong people at the top, you know? There's a lot of good people that are being trampled right now, and it's really just heartbreaking to witness. And I've been sat and I've been thinking for a long time, what can I do as an individual that doesn't require me just sitting down and complaining and not doing anything? Yeah. What can I do to change my circumstances so that I don't feel as though I don't have enough power over my own life? Like, there has to be a way that I can make this work. And I was thinking about it and I thought, well, you have a roof over your head. You have running water. You don't live in the wilderness. There must be a way that you can make this work for you. And there really is, you know. But I never see anyone make content like this. I've never seen it. All I've ever seen is people have acres of land and they're off grid and they can use all these natural resources around them. And at this very second, I don't have those things. So I very much believe in starting with what you have and where you are and evolving from there, okay? Because that's the natural order of things. Once you start creating, it sort of just unfolds that way, which is why everything in the underworld that we currently live in is very much focused against you creating anything, if you haven't noticed. So yeah, I really hope that this does help some people. And as I said, there's a lot of people that will just be like, no, I could never do that. And that's fine. I keep scrolling, I guess, you know. But for the ones that do want to hear it, I hope that you take something from my videos and that you find them a little bit educational and stuff like that. So yeah, that's where I am. There's been ups and downs, as you saw from the video intro. I'm sure there'll be more, you know, I'm sure there'll be more. I did have a lot of hesitation about starting this channel, but in the end, I just thought, no, you're being called to do it and it's not going away. And I don't believe, as I said, in ignoring patterns. And the last final straw for me, why I started this channel, is because I live in an apartment building that's very new. It was only built in 2020. And all of the meters are in a cupboard on the ground floor downstairs. There's only 2 floors and I live on the 2nd floor. And straight away, that was a red flag to me. You know, I was initially told when I signed for this property that the electric was on bills. So I didn't know that it was on a prepayment meter. And it became this big thing of trying to get this prepayment meter out. They took the gas one out very easily. But the electric now, you're dragging your feet and telling me that, ooh, we may have to put a smart meter in and this, that and the other. So that's why I didn't get it done, because you're not doing that. And 2 months ago, you know, the cupboard is locked and miraculously this lock just got changed. They didn't tell anyone in the building that the lock got changed and we just couldn't put any electric on. And my neighbours opposite me, I didn't find out until after this had all died down, but they've got a newborn baby and her husband is diabetic. And they just had to go without electric for the entire weekend. Couldn't get hold of no one, couldn't get nothing to happen. And it was just like sort of an unbelievable situation. But my neighbor who's below me, child, you don't want to mess around with him, all right? You don't want to. And he straight told the owners of this building, if my electric goes off, I'm kicking that door off. And I know he's not playing when he said that. So, eventually we did get another key. But by then I'd already made my decision, because my neighbours were telling me, the ones who went without it for the whole weekend, that when they rang up and tried to get someone to come out to open the door, they kept asking them, well, don't you have a smart meter? Why do you need to get in the cupboard? And that, for me, was where this ended. That was the final nail on the head, where I made the decision that, oh no, I can see where this is going, and I'm not having anything to do with it. So one thing about me is, when I've had enough, I've truly had enough. And I have absolutely no problem cutting off my own nose to spite my face. And what I mean by that is, if I have to make my life temporarily more uncomfortable to gain freedom, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And that's where we are, babes. So, as I said, my name's Eva. Welcome to the Energy Exchange. Stay tuned. If you've got any questions, if you have any video suggestions, hit me up. Okay? Take care. Okay, people. So let's start at the beginning. As I've already mentioned, the prepayment meter is on the ground floor, and I live on the second floor, which is the top floor. So in order to check what the balance was, it'd mean me just like running up and down the stairs. So I mentally gauged it, and what I decided to do was to wash everything that I could while I still had the electric on. So your big items like curtains, throws, cushion covers, bedding, all of that, to give myself the best head start that I could, right? So what you're witnessing is me miscalculating how much electric I had left. Basically, do you know what's so annoying? I didn't even need to do this final load. I didn't. The stuff that you're currently seeing, like I washed it like 2 weeks before. But I just thought, hey, let's just try and do everything we can, because I always like to try and get ahead if possible. And that was a flop, right? So what I had to do was drain the washing machine, and it stopped sort of. There was probably about 20 minutes left on the cycle, so we didn't get to wring out, as you can see. So I had to wring out everything by hand, and then I started to think about, well, where is the best place to hang this stuff out, because it's dripping wet now. My floors are actually solid painted concrete, so they're cool, and they're very much like, they give, for me, I love them, and I haven't even attempted to replace them because they give me like a hotel vibe. So anytime I mop various times throughout the week, and that's just how it feels like, like you're in a hotel and everything's bleachy and marvelous. So that's the way I like it. But it's also really good in this circumstance, because it means that for me, if anything drips, it's just easy to mop up and it doesn't cause any damage. So yeah, I attempted to put these things in the bathroom initially, just because they were so wet, and you can see that the clothes horse could not handle the weight of the things I was putting on there, because they weren't wrung out properly, and because this was in the bit. So what's happened now is I've got, I'm not a pro at it, but I've got much stronger at wringing out the clothes, so the dripping is very minimal. But this was my first attempt at this, really, and it was a bit of a disaster. I am going to make a full laundry video for you, so I didn't feature the full process in this, because I want to show you everything from start to finish. So if there is a chance that you are in a similar circumstance to me, which by what I mean by that is you don't have a garden that you can hang your washing out, then that will be coming. But yeah, this was the beginning stages of, those things you can't account for, you can't plan for, but you just have to roll with it. It is what it is. Okay, people, that seems like as good a time as any to end this first video. I hope you're feeling inspired to continue along this journey with me, right? Don't worry, it gets much, much better. There's, beautiful ambient environments to come. Stay tuned. I'll catch you in the next video, and thank you very much for watching.